I've read that duckweed is high in protein and a good source of food for chickens, especially if you're raising meat chickens. And so I had this little backyard pond that I actually put in just for my bees. And I usually have to have something floating in here for the bees to land on, or I'll come out and there'll just be a bunch of bees that have drowned. But I started seeing a little bit of duckweed in here this year, and instead of years past when I'd pull it out of there, I decided to let it go. And it's amazing how fast it grows. But it's pretty crazy because, I mean, obviously it's attracted other little forms of wildlife. You know, I've seen squirrels back here, seen rabbits back here at this little pond. I got a couple frogs that live in it. But now my bees, maybe we'll get lucky and we'll see one land. The bees can just come and they can just land right on top of it and walk around and get a drink whenever they want and not have to worry about drowning, which I think is pretty cool. And also it keeps the water, like it's been super hot last few days, and that water's cool. It shades the water. But what I want to do is just gather some of this up. We're gonna walk back. We're gonna throw some in with the chickens just to see what happens. I've never fed any of this to the hens, so we're gonna try it and see if they like it. Just another free source of food I have to give to my chickens now. So that's awesome. I'm actually going to pick some squash while I'm out here. I just want to come out here and check on this. My little, I know it looks pretty raggedy, but I decided to just plant a bunch of wildflowers and different things for the pollinators, just to see what all I could attract. And man, there's been all kinds of different bees, birds, butterflies. There's a honeybee working that sunflower. See, there's a bee. I'm not even sure what kind of bee that is. That's the cool thing about it, man. You see all kinds of insects and pollinators that you didn't even know existed. I know a lot of people don't want to look at this in their yards, but I'm one of those guys that I don't care. I like nature. I like everything about it. Buckwheat. Bumblebees. Now I don't know what all is in here because some of it was a pollinator seed pack, and then I just threw some different kinds of sunflowers out. That is a young bee. Look at that one. Like all the buckwheat, I planted all the buckwheat separate. I was just very careful not to plant too much buckwheat, that it would affect the flavor of my honey. I know some people like buckwheat honey, but man, I do not. So I don't know exactly what happened here. This is the same that was planted here. I think that just because this was yard before, the grass was just so thick that it just crowded out all the flowers, you know. Now over here I'm starting to get sunflowers and more buckwheat, but the rest of it looks just like weeds. But I'm just gonna let it go. More sunflowers. Yeah, some pretty strong winds. The last storm, and it blew a lot of the corn over. So the garden has just been, it's been a struggle this whole year. This whole year it's been a struggle. Squash bugs have finally found my zucchini that I planted in my raised beds. Lot of eggs in here. It's hard to beat them squash bugs, man. It's a hassle every year. These lasted a lot longer than all the squash over there on the in-ground garden. Took them a while to get over here, but so what I'll do, I'll go get some tape, and I'll just take some tape and stick it to those eggs and try to pull off as many as I can, and then squash the rest. And there's still a chance of rain this evening, so I'll hold off until tomorrow to spray them. But there's a bunch that hatched. Let me show you. For those of you that's never seen, where was that at? Baby squash bugs. I just seen a whole nest of them right there. Look at them things. Evil little critters. Man, they will tear some squash up now. So I definitely need to treat that. Down here and check and pick some of these cucumbers now. Even my cucumbers have been a struggle this year. Just the beetles, the cucumber beetles. Trying to get them to stay up on the trellis. It's just been a chore this year. These cherry tomatoes are out of control, so I'm just gonna prune them up a little bit just so they can get some airflow. Usually cherry tomatoes, I don't. Man, I need some better snips. Goodness. Usually cherry tomatoes I don't touch. And these just starting to get a little bit of rot on these lower leaves because they're touching the ground. So we're just gonna fix that. Peach tree is just full of peaches. This branch is actually so full, I think I'm gonna actually prop this up. Get that branch up off the ground. This is the first year we've had this many peaches on the tree. These are traps for boring moths or whatever they're called. They work pretty good. There's a bumblebee with a lot of pollen on its legs. Need to get in here and weed carrots a little bit. See the little baby watermelon there, but that flower has to get pollinated by a male flower in order for that to turn into a watermelon. So we're just gonna go ahead and take this male flower. You see the male flower is just a flower on a stem. Then, oops, then you can just rub the pollen from one to the other. Make sure you get enough on there. And then hopefully that'll be enough, because if it doesn't, then that will never grow into a watermelon. It will just die off. And these flowers, the females only open, I can't remember, it's only maybe once, twice. It's a pretty short time that they'll open up to be pollinated. Oh, look, there's a hawk up there. Probably looking for a little bit of chicken meat. So I want to show you just how much pollinators like pumpkin. We're going to walk around and look at as many of these blooms as we can and see just how many are being pollinated by the bees. Now you're going to notice that part of this pumpkin plant's dying off, which is fine with me because I didn't even plant it anyway. It just kind of grew on its own. I let it go. But so if you notice, oh, no, that one didn't have anything. We've had one bloom so far that did not have some sort of pollinator inside it. Some of these lower ones don't. But as you can see, they just love working pumpkins. So if you like pumpkins, or your kids like pumpkins, you need to be thanking the pollinators for allowing you guys to have them. As you can see, that pumpkin plant has just taken over too much of an area, and it's clear over here in my tomatoes, so I can't hardly even get in there to see the prune. But I can see I'm starting to get a little bit of disease, so I need to get in here and prune all that foliage off. That got that on there. I probably need to just rip this pumpkin plant out. And then this tomato plant, just the weight of it, I didn't get it staked up in time. Then we had winds the other night come through and it bent that main stem. So I'm still gonna tie it up, stake it up today, and hopefully that will heal itself, but I don't know if it will or not. I'll give it a whirl though. But I got a lot of tomatoes on. They're just not getting ripe. But I need to be able to get more sun to the plant. So I need to trim some of this stuff back. So I think I'm gonna cut her off here and get to work out here and get some of this stuff done before it starts getting hot out. See you guys on the next one.